Welcome to our session of learning English through realistic conversation. This episode is all about easing into everyday English for beginners, with natural dialogue you might hear on YouTube.
Right. So what exactly are we diving into here? It feels like a mix of natural dialogues and useful language tips, right?
Exactly. It's like a friendly chat where beginners pick up useful phrases, everyday expressions, and casual language. A setup that's totally different from just going through a textbook.
Yeah, I love that approach. It kind of replicates what real-life conversations feel like instead of rote lessons.
Absolutely. The idea is to build comfort with listening and speaking while exposing learners to, the flow of natural speech.
Yep, and this content is from a YouTube video. Learn English with Podcast Conversation Episode 1, right? The metadata even shows links to things like copyright and NFL Sunday Ticket. That seems like an interesting mix, doesn't it?
Oh yes, definitely. The video is framed as an accessible and friendly introduction for beginners, while the background details, like the copyright and other channel information, remind us of the big digital ecosystem supporting it.
Right. So it's not just about the language, it's also a window into how platforms like YouTube curate educational content with all that extra info in the backdrop.
Exactly. And that broader context helps show the professionalism and security behind the platform. But at its core, it's all about engaging with English in a natural, relaxed manner.
Absolutely. Many beginners find textbooks a bit intimidating. This method, with real conversation, seems like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, for sure. It's like dipping your toes in the water rather than jumping directly into the deep end. It helps you get a smooth introduction with phrases and even the pauses and stutters that make conversations feel authentic.
I mean, natural pauses and stutters? That sounds a bit messy. Shouldn't we aim for clear speech instead?
That's an interesting point, but consider this. In real life, people naturally use fillers like or and including them teaches learners what actual conversational speech is like. It's like not everything is scripted perfection.
Yeah, true. I see what you mean. Exposure to these natural elements might actually boost learners' confidence when interacting with native speakers, right?
Exactly. It breaks down the barrier between scripted dialogue and actual conversation. The way the episode is structured, it eases you into phrases that you can immediately use, all sprinkled with real-life timing and, natural pauses.
That's great. And I guess it's especially important because language is more than just words. It's about rhythm, tone, and feeling, which aren't captured by textbooks alone.
Absolutely. It's like learning to dance. You can read all the steps, but you really need to move to the music. And here, the music is the natural cadence of English conversation, as heard in everyday situations.
So, aside from the conversation itself, does the episode bring in any tips for, say, pronunciation or common pitfalls beginners might face?
Yes, it does touch on those. The language used is simple and repetitive in a way that reinforces proper pronunciation and usage. Utterly ideal for beginners. It's a solid foundation where each phrase is repeated or rephrased naturally in context.
Right, exactly. And I also noticed that even though there's a bit of extra metadata, like the NFL Sunday Ticket reference, that kind of distracts a bit. Don't you think mixing in such elements might confuse language learners?
That's a reasonable concern. However, the reference to NFL Sunday Ticket is more about showing the channel's broad range of content, not interfering with the learning component. The main focus remains on the conversation, and learners can always disregard the peripheral stuff if it seems off topic.
Yes, I get that. It's like having a menu with side options, but clearly the main dish is the conversation practice.
Exactly. And that balance creates an immersive yet targeted learning environment where the learner's attention is primarily on how English is used in everyday settings.
Absolutely. So, in your view, for someone just starting out, this episode provides a gentle introduction without overwhelming them with too much detail at once.
Yes, it's structured in a way that gradually builds, almost like climbing small steps instead of trying to leap over a huge gap. The conversation flows naturally, and even if you miss a word here and there, the context makes it understandable.
Right? And I really appreciate this approach because it mirrors how we actually learn languages in real life, as in picking up nuances by hearing them repeatedly.
Exactly. Repeated exposure in real context makes such a huge difference. You remember the idioms, the intonation, and the natural rhythm of speech, things that textbooks might gloss over.
Yep, and having all that available on YouTube means learners can, revisit the material at their own pace, which is super helpful.
Absolutely. It's like having an on-demand tutor who's always there, and if you don't catch something the first time, you can rewind and get it again.
That's a real bonus. So overall, this episode is a blend of natural conversation, subtle educational tips, and even, a peek into YouTube's broader content ecosystem. It's pretty dynamic.
Exactly. And that dynamic nature ensures that the content remains engaging and relatable for beginners. It's not just about learning English, but about understanding how the language functions in everyday discourse.
True. Now, do you think this kind of approach will always be the best way to learn a language? Or should there be a balance with more structured lessons?
That's a great question. I'd say, yes, there needs to be a balance. While conversation-based sessions are fantastic for real-world practice, some structured guidance is still valuable to set a foundation. It's like having both practice and theory.
I think that makes sense. I just wonder if leaning too much into casual conversation might leave gaps in understanding detailed grammar rules. Don't you think that might be an issue?
It can be a bit of a trade-off, sure, but actually, when you listen carefully, even casual dialogues have underlying grammatical structures that become apparent over time. It's like, you're learning the rules without drilling them explicitly. The challenge is to ensure a balance, and from what I can tell, episodes like these sometimes sprinkle in grammar insights subtly.
Yes, that balance does seem key. And by blending natural conversation with those occasional tips, learners can internalize language concepts much faster than through memorization alone.
Absolutely. It's all about integrated learning. It's practical, intuitive, and far more engaging than isolated grammar drills.
Exactly. Plus, the multimedia aspect of being on YouTube with visuals like subtitles and possibly even images adds yet another layer to the learning experience.
Yep. That visual reinforcement is key. It helps reinforce what you hear by providing context, and for beginners, that extra cue can make all the difference.
Right, for sure. In a nutshell, this episode, and really the overall concept of learning English through natural conversations, seems like a promising way to make language learning less daunting and more fun.
Exactly. It's about making the journey feel natural and accessible, turning every conversation into a learning opportunity.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I'm really excited to see how these methods evolve over time. The fusion of real-life conversation with digital learning tools really seems to be the future of language education, huh?
It sure does, and it's a trend that's gradually reshaping education. As more content like this pops up, learners get to choose the pace and style that work best for them.
Exactly. And when learners can connect with the language in everyday contexts, it becomes less of a chore and more of an engaging experience.
Right on. It's that engagement that fuels continued learning. Plus, with the supportive ecosystem like YouTube's features and associated content, the learning environment feels ever evolving.
Agreed. Well, this conversation definitely highlights how a seemingly simple podcast episode can hold a lot of depth when it comes to language learning methodology.
Absolutely. And it just goes to show that practical, immersive learning experiences, even from a platform known for a diverse content range, have a huge impact on beginners.
Right. Thanks for this enlightening chat. It's really given me a fresh perspective on how to approach language learning.
And thank you as well. Here's to making English learning engaging and, well, fun every step of the way.
Yep, for sure. Until next time, keep practicing and enjoying every conversation you have.
Absolutely. Take care and happy learning.